This is an additional video, STAAR review video on order of operations. You have already learned about the order of operations and the use of PEMDAS to help you remember the order of operations. But this video is going to discuss a couple of areas that you need to be familiar with. The first one is that you need to be aware of the exponents. If you look at the three examples, you'll notice that we have exponents in each one, but the exponents are in different places. In our first example, the exponent is next to a number, 6 squared. In the second example, the exponent is next to 2 squared, but it's inside the parentheses where there are other operations. And in the third example, the exponent is outside of parentheses where there's operations inside of parentheses. Okay, it can be kind of confusing. What do I do first? Do I do the exponents first? In this example, do I have to solve the other operations and then do the exponent? What about this one? Do I square both the 14 and the 2? Do I square the 2 before I subtract it from 14? Lots of different questions, and you need to make sure that you make the right choices. So we're going to go ahead and work each example. On the first one, it's just a basic normal order of operations problem. Okay, parentheses comes first. Here's the parentheses. 11 minus 2 is 9. So I'm going to rewrite everything else. I'm going to keep that 9 inside the parentheses. Remember, you only want to do one step at a time. Don't try to do multiple steps in your head because it can get confusing. Okay, I'm finished with my parentheses because this parentheses doesn't have operations inside of it, so it's a multiplication type parentheses. It means to multiply times 5. So I go to my next step, which is my exponents, and I do have an exponent. 6 squared does not mean 6 times 2. It means 6 times itself 2 times. So I'm going to write everything the same. 5 times 9 plus 6 squared is 36. Now I have multiplication and addition operations. PEMDAS says do multiplication first. So 5 times 9 is 45. Bring down the plus 36. And 45 plus 36 is 81. So that is my final answer. So this is a standard problem. You've seen this several times with the exponent, but let's try it differently. Let's try it where the exponent is inside the parentheses. Okay, PEMDAS does say to do parentheses inside. So I have a subtraction, addition, and an exponent. Which do I do first? When you have multiple operations inside of the parentheses, you have to follow the order of operation rules. You have to follow PEMDAS inside the parentheses. And PEMDAS says to do exponents first. So my 2 squared is going to be 4, and I'm going to write everything else the same. Again, I'm only doing one step at a time. I continue with my parentheses, subtraction, addition. Order of operations in PEMDAS say I do my addition subtraction from left to right. So if I'm going from left to the right, I run across my subtraction first. 9 minus 6 is 3. Bring down the plus 4. Bring down the minus 2. I'm still working inside my parentheses. I have one operation left. 3 plus 4 is 7. Bring down the minus 2. And my last step is to subtract for a final answer of 5. Be sure to pause the videos when needed so that you can work these examples in your notes. Okay, our last example. Here the exponent is on the outside of the parentheses, and that's okay. PEMDAS says to do the parentheses first, what's inside the parentheses. So I start with that. 14 minus 2 is 12. I'm going to keep it inside the parentheses because the square goes on the outside of it. Bring down the plus 16 minus 4. Okay, there are no longer any operations inside the parentheses, so I move on to my exponents, which means now is when I can square. And I square what's inside the parentheses, the 12. So 12 squared means 12 times 12, which is 144. I bring down the 16 plus 16 minus 4. And addition and subtraction is from left to right. So first comes addition. So 144 plus 16 is 160. Bring down the minus 4. And the last step is to subtract. And my final answer is 156. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is the fraction forms. Watch out for the fraction forms. When you have a whole bunch of operations and some of them look like they're a fraction. Remember, this fraction bar means to divide. So you're going to consider it as part of your multiplication division step. You also need to remember that anything in the numerator, if there's more than one operation, or in the denominator, need to be considered as individual parentheses. You always want to solve whatever operations are in the numerator or whatever operations are in the denominator before you perform this division. So here we go. I'm going to start with my parentheses, which would be my numerator. 3 cubed does not mean 3 times 3. It means 3 times itself 3 times, which is going to be 27. There are no operations in the denominator, so that stays a 9. And since I'm doing one step at a time, I bring down the 21 plus. Now I have addition, and I have division. PEMDAS says to do the division first. So I'm going to do 27 divided by 9 is 3. Bring down my 21 plus, and finally I add them, and I get a final answer of 24. So that one was pretty easy. But what about if we have a problem like this one, where there are multiple operations in the numerator and multiple operations in the denominator? Well, same thing. You need to consider the numerator as its own parentheses and the denominator as its own parentheses, and solve them first before you can do that fraction bar division. So I'm going to start with my numerator. I'm going to perform PEMDAS on the numerator. So PEMDAS says to do the parentheses first. Did you notice that there's an exponent outside the parentheses? Be careful of that one. All right, parentheses. 12 minus 8 is 4. So I'm going to keep it inside the parentheses, bring down everything else. That includes my square, and that includes the plus 8. Now, let's look at the denominator. I have 2 squared plus 2. PEMDAS says to do the exponents first, so 2 squared is 4, and I bring down the plus 2. Now I'm going to continue. I still have operations inside each the numerator and the denominator, so I'm going to work on those individually. So I'll start with the numerator. I have addition and I have exponents. PEMDAS says to do the exponents first. So 4 squared is 16. So this is going to be 8 plus 16 over, and I just have one operation in my denominator, 4 plus 2, which is 6. Okay, we're almost there. We still have operation in the numerator, so we need to do that first. 8 plus 16 is 24. No other operations in the denominator, so I can just rewrite that. And finally, I get to do my division. 24 divided by 6 is 4.